Shekayach Rab Avram, and Abish should bench you for all the schusim you have, all the shiurim in the kehillah here, and to be meisif, to add more shiurim. Mishayesh lemana writes in Messiah. It's not only a demand of Chazal, but it's actually a teva. Teva b'nei Yadam, Mishayesh lemana writes in Messiah. Should be meisif more shiurim, and all the people that are attending shiurim should add more and more. So as the Seder is with the Siyum, I'm going to make first the Siyum on the Meseches and learn with you the last chelik of Meseches Yevamos. First we'll learn the piece of Gemara, and then I'll share with you a beautiful Hadron from the Rebbe on the Siyum of the Meseches. So, Daf Kuf Chav Beis Amid Beis, in the last chelik of the Meseches, so Bechlal, the last few prokim in this Meseches, discusses the halacha regarding a woman that her husband passed away, or there are eidim, or there's an eid echad that's coming and saying testimony about this woman that her husband passed away. And over here, in the last point of the Meseches, it brought a machlokes between Rab Tarfon and Rab Akiva regarding this eidus. Now, usually, b'negeya to eidus, the halacha is that we learn from the pasuk that there's a din called drisha v'chakira. You have to interrogate the eidus. You have to, first of all, drisha means interrogate the words that they say to see whether it's stimmt, whether the words that they're saying match up, does it fit what they're saying. And then there's chakira, to see whether the timing, the place that they say it happened, whether that's true or not. Question is, when it comes to this eidus that we're listening to regarding a man that passed away, do we also require this drisha v'chakira? Does the Bezdin have to make this interrogation or not? So the Gemara here brought that Rabbi Akiva's opinion is that by eidei noshim, these eidim that are used to determine whether a woman's husband passed away or not, we do not require drisha v'chakira. Rab Tarfon says, just like any other eidus, it requires drisha v'chakira. Regarding these eidos here as well, it's no different. The Bezdin will have to interrogate the eidim before we accept their eidos. That's the machlokes that the Gemara here says. So now, the last piece of the Meseches, the Gemara explains the background, the basis for this machlokes. Zok the Gemara, the kamiflegi with Rab Chanina. They're both arguing regarding this that Rab Chanina once said. Rab Chanina said as follows: Dvar Teire. Minatayra, the halacha is echad dine mamenis ve'echad dine nefashis bedrisha v'chakira. Both when it comes to an eidus that are testifying regarding money matters, or eidim that are testifying regarding matters that pertain to life or death, you always have to interrogate the eidus. However, and he brings the pasuk actually, shenema mishpat echad yeh lachem, that it's the same halacha of judgment when you judge and you are going to paskin a halacha regarding dinin mamenis or dinin nefashis. So why is it that when it comes to money matters, we do not interrogate the eidim the same way we do, like when it comes to dinin nefashis? Says the Gemara, the reason is because if you would interrogate these eidos, then people would be very afraid to lend money. Because they'll know that if they're going to bring witnesses to testify that the money is owed to them, the eidim are going to have to go through a difficult interrogation, and not necessarily will they stand up to this interrogation, and it'll be hard for them to collect the money. So people will think twice before they lend money to anybody. So therefore, Chachamim, so to speak, uprooted this chiyuv min haTorah to interrogate eidim, and the Chachamim said that you do not have to interrogate eidus when it comes to dinei mamenis, to money matters. So now what's the question here regarding these eidus that are telling us that this woman's husband passed away? So b'mai kamifligi, so what's the argument here? Mar sovar, so one opinion here is, kivin the ikik subel mishkal. When you say that a woman's husband passed away, so what happens? She now collects her ksuba money. She's getting remarried, or even if not, she gets the ksuba money for her husband passed away. So therefore, kedine mamen is dummy. This eidus is considered to be an eidus regarding a money matter. So there's no drisha v'chakira. Omar Sovar, however, the Parfon's opinion is, kivin, the kosharinon eishes ish la'alma, since What we're really doing over here is we're allowing this woman that's an Eishes Ish up until this point. We're allowing her to go and get remarried. So then, Kedin Nefashis Dami, this is a matter of life and death. You're allowing it to get married to someone else. If someone has a relationship with an Eishes Ish, there's a Chi of Misa. So therefore, this is like any other Eidos regarding Din Nefashis, and you'll have to interrogate the Eidim. That's the basis of the Machlokes. The Rishonim explained the Pshat in this Gemara. When you look at the simple words of the Gemara, it's very difficult to understand what the Gemara is saying. Why would you think that being mater and Eishes Ish should be considered to be a money matter? It's true that she also gets ksuba money, but because she gets ksuba money, so therefore we should ignore the fact that you're actually being mater and Eishes Ish. Why would there be an opinion to say that this is considered to be a money matter? So the Rishonim explain, the Ramban, the Ritva, and others bring over here that the Pshat in the Gemara is, we're speaking about Bisman Hazeh. Bisman Hazeh, regarding an Eishes Ish, there is no Chiyuv Misa Dinei Nefashis that we actually fulfill today. So therefore, Bisman Hazeh, the main relevance of the Eidos regarding this woman that her husband passed away, B'Payal is B'Negeya to the Dinei Mominus. True, of course, it's Negeya to the Heter of Eishes Ish as well. However, actual Dinei Nefashis is not something that we're Mekayim Bisman Hazeh. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva considered it to be Bisman Hazeh, Be'ikir, a matter of Dinei Mominus. However, Rab Tarfon says, even Bisman Hazeh, it's still Be'emes considered to be a matter of Dinei Nefashis. And it is an issue of Eishes Ish, and therefore you have to make a Drisha V'Chakira. That is the hesber that the Rishonim say in this Gemara here. And the Gemara concludes, Amar Rab Elazar, Amar Rab Chanina, Talmidei Chachamim, Marbim Shalom Ba'elam, Talmidei Chachamim increase the peace in the world, Shenemar, V'chol Banayich, Limudei Hashem, V'rav Shalom Banayich. And as it says in other Meseches, over here, some are going to sit here as well, Al Tikru Banayich Ela Boinayich. When it says Banayich, it refers to Boinayich, which are the Talmidei Chachamim, that are the builders of the entire world, and they are the ones that bring Rav Shalom, an abundance of peace into the world. Hadron Allah Isha Basra Slikala Meseches Yevamos. Hadron Allah Meseches Yevamos v'Hadron Chalon Dayton Allah Meseches Yevamos v'Dayton Chalon L'Nisnash Menach Meseches Yevamos L'Nisnash Menon Loy Ba'al Ma'adein v'Loy Ba'al Medas. Hadron Allah Meseches Yevamos v'Hadron Chalon Dayton Allah Meseches Yevamos Dayton Chalon L'Nisnash Menach Meseches Yevamos L'Nisnash Menon Loy Ba'al Ma'adein v'Loy Ba'al Medas. Hadron Allah Meseches Yevamos v'Hadron Chalon Dayton Allah Meseches Yevamos Dayton Chalon L'Nisnash Ba'al Medas. Yiratzim ufanach Hadron Le'en Le'Vesein Shtei Seraschom and Sein Ba'Lam Hazeh Sei Mon Le'Lam Avach Amir Ba'Papa Ram Ba'Papa Nachma Ba'Papa Choy Ba'Papa Mori Ba'Papa Rafram Ba'Papa Rachish Ba'Papa Surcha Ba'Papa Ada Ba'Papa Dora Ba'Papa Harev No Adon Le'en Seraschom B'Kinu B'Kinu Lam Ba'Pesa V'Ni Nachnu Tzatzeinu Kolonu Nachnu Tzatzeinu Tzach Lam Ba'Pesa Yirish Mach Le'en Serascha Oy V'Tach Hakmenim Tzach Kilaylam He lead Sam Chukach Laman Eivish Le'Lam Me'ashk B'Dach Mam Fi Yisrael Warchat Ad Mel V'Nach Amen 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 Selavad Maidem Anachnu L'Fanach Adonai Lamin V'Leves Nisham B'Beis 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 Ono Mashkimim v'hei Mashkimim. Ono Mashkimim l'divrei Torah. V'hei Mashkimim l'dvarim b'teilim. Ono amelim v'hei amelim. Ono amelim u'mekablim schar. V'hei amelim v'eino mekablim schar. Ono ratzim v'heim ratzim. Heim ratzim l'vei shachas. Ono ratzim l'chaye ya'ilam abach. Shenem v'atalim tirim l'vei shachas. Am shadom v'mim l'yachzi meim v'ani eftach bach. Yiratzim l'fanach Adonai Elohai. Kishem shezatan l'sayim b'sachti Yevamos. Kent hazer l'haskim b'sachti Sfarim acherim l'sayim l'lumoy l'olam mitlushmoy v'lasis l'kayim l'kol yudis amot l'sachab yava. Schos kol atanoyim v'amiroyim v'tamid chachamim. Yamadli l'zarish l'tomish l'tayim m'pi u'm'pizari v'zarazari adoyim m'skaybi m'salacha tancha yischa. B'shach b'chatish maradacha v'kitzay sehisis yichesecha kivi bi yirbu yemecha v'yisichul chashnes chaim. Oyrech yamim b'mina v'smayla shevachavet Adonai yizlam v'yitain Adonai yevarech esamim b'shalem. Is there a chiv that wants to say Kaddish? Huh? Kaddish to Rabbanan. Amen. 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 Yehei Shmei Rabu Marach L'Olam Amen. Mayis Barich. Amen. 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 Hey. Amen. Mazel tov, everyone. Mazel tov. Should give us kayach, siyata d'shmaya. We will continue learning and learning more Torah. Siyum v'shanim tovos for everybody. Chaim l'chaim. So I will share with you a word, bekitzer, from the Rebbe's Hadron on the Meseches. L'chaim l'chaim. It's a fascinating Hadron, and the Rebbe actually said a Hadron on Meseches Yevamos along with the other Meseches that have the same Siyum. And there's the Remes, B'chol Banayich, Brochus, Nazir, Yevamos, and Krisus, finished with the same Maimah Chazal. The Marshal points it out, and the Marshal also speaks about the reason why these four Meseches specifically finish with this Siyum. But the Siyum of the Rebbe, connecting all four Meseches together, is a tremendous arichis. This is a sikha from Yud Shvat Tavshin Mem, and it's many, many pages, but an akuda that's relevant over here, b'negea to Meseches Yevamos. So there are a few obvious questions over here, b'negea to the Siyum. First of all, this Siyum of Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. What's the connection to the Meseches? How does the concept of Marbim Shalom Ba'olam relate to the halachis and the things that it spoke about in Meseches Yevamos? Then the question is, the Meseches seemingly finishes off with a subject that is not so connected to the entire Meseches. What's Meseches Yevamos all about? Meseches Yevamos discusses, as its name indicates, the mitzvah of a yavam, which is either to do yibum, to marry your wife's brother, lahakim shem la'achiv, and if that's not possible, so then chalitza. Those are the two options, yibum or chalitza. That's what the bulk of the Meseches is about. And the end of the Meseches, it discusses halachas b'negea to being matir and aguna, all the different halachas regarding a woman where it's unclear what happened to her husband, and we have to rely on an eidos. When could you rely on eidos? How do you identify this person that passed away? Seemingly an unrelated matter to the rest of the Meseches. And more specifically, the ending of the Meseches, where it speaks about this halacha of drisha v'chakira. Whether Eidim, do you have to interrogate Eidim? Do you not have to interrogate Eidim? The difference between dinei mamanis, dinei nefashis. When it comes to dinei nefashis, you do interrogate the Eidim, and by dinei mamanis, you do not interrogate the Eidim. Doesn't really seem to reflect the teichen of the whole Meseches. And yet, this is the Siyum of the Meseches. So there has to be something here. There has to be something in the Siyum of the Meseches that expresses what the teichen of this Meseches is about. So the Nekuda that the Rebbe explains is as follows. There's something unique about the mitzvah of Yibum and Chalitza. The Torah here is giving you a mitzvah where l'chatchila, the mitzvah has two options. This man here that has his brother's wife, he has two options, either Yibum or Chalitza. And whether he does Yibum or he does Chalitza, he's Mekayim a mitzvah. It's a pretty unusual thing. You don't really find by any other mitzvah in the Torah such a concept that the Torah l'chatchila gives you a mitzvah with an option. You have a choice. And everything's about choices. You have to give a choice. You can't obligate anything, right? So here the Torah gives you a choice, either Yibum or Chalitza. The only other example that I could think of where you see a similar thing where the Torah l'chatchila gives you a choice regarding a mitzvah is when it comes to the mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tiv. There's a machlekes regarding when the Torah one time says Lashem, and the other time the Torah says Lachem, and there's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer says that you have a choice. Oy kulei Lashem, oy kulei Lachem. You can choose. You can either sit and learn and daven all day, and that's the mitzvah on Yom Tiv, or you can sit and enjoy the Yom Tiv Lachem. So that's another example of a mitzvah where there's a choice. So the point is that Rebbe says this is a unique thing where you find that the Torah, which usually demands and tells you exactly what you should do, what you should not do, here the Torah l'chatchila comes and tells you have a choice. And we learned in the Meseches that the better option is the mitzvah of Yibum. And if Yibum is impossible, so then the mitzvah is Chalitza. But nevertheless, it is a choice. What's the pshat in this? So the Rebbe explains as follows. The entire union of Torah in this world, as Chazal tell us in other places, is to make shalom in the world. What says to make shalom? Torah is what creates peace between the Eibishter and the world that we live in. If you live in the world without Torah, then the world seems like a jungle. And there's no direction, there's no guidance, there's no content, there's no teichen, there's no meaning. The world seems to be an empty, pointless place with nothing, no aim, no goal, nothing. When you learn Torah, Torah is lichtakai Torah. Torah shows you and shines a light on every detail of your life, what the point and what the purpose and what the direction of your life is about. So Torah reveals and draws down the kavanah of the Eibishter for what the creation was intended to be. Torah is the one that reveals out in the world. So in that sense, Torah brings shalom ba'olam. Torah brings the peace into the world. However, when you bring the kayach of Torah, you bring the peace into the world through Torah, there are two eifanim. As it very often speaks about in Chassidus, the language that Chassidus speaks about this is, you can either bring the shalom into the world, or maila lamata, or momata lamaila. You can bring the Torah, the shalom of the Torah in the world, where the Torah sets down certain expectations, certain demands, and there's no deviating. This is the Ratzon Hashem, this is what the Eibishter wants, and you have to live up to those expectations. That is your avodah in this world. And you have to accept the yoke of heaven. You have to have Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shemayim to fulfill what the Eibishter wants. That's definitely the majority of Torah, and that's the way Torah brings peace into the world. By guiding a person, by showing him, the person himself might think that if he's going to make his own choices, then life will be good. But the Meseches is nicht to say. If a person makes his own choices constantly in his life, so without Torah, we live in a darkness, we live in chayshech. So you have to have the guidance and the directives of Torah to tell you, azaya nicht anders. This is the way it has to be done. But then there is a chelik in Torah where Torah comes to you and tells you that I want you now to look into your own heart and ask yourself, how do you find the Eibishter in the world? How are you going to connect to the Eibishter? What's your personal way of connecting? So there are certain things in Torah where the Torah gives you a choice and tells you it can be done in this way and it can be done in a different way. That's the unique chiddush that you find regarding the mitzvah of Yibum and Chalitza, where there's a connection that the Torah allows a Yid to find himself when he makes that choice, whether he's going to do Yibum or Chalitza. That's a shalom that a person brings in his connection to the Eibishter, Mulmat Lamayla, his very own choice. That's the chiddush and the real teichen of this Masechta. When the Masechta concludes with Talmidei Chachamim Marben Shalom Ba'olam, so the Shalom of Masechta Yevamos is a unique Shalom. It's the Shalom of this Masechta of Masechta Yevamos, which speaks about this choice that a person makes and it creates his own personal connection to the Eibishter. There's the Shalom of Masechta Brachas, of other Masechtas, which a bracha is Hamshach, bringing down from above to below. But here in this Masechta, it repeats again, Talmidei Chachamim Marben Shalom. It's not the same Shalom of Masechta Brachas. It's a completely different type of Shalom. That's the point that Rebbe says. This is the connection here, Benegeya, to this concept of Drisha v'Chakira when it comes to Eidos. So when it comes to Eidos, you have a similar thing here. The Kayach of Eidos is the most powerful proof in Torah. Al Pishnayim Eidim Yakum Dovar. When two Eidim come and say something to the Bezdin, so whether the Eidim are saying the truth, this is a lashon that the Rambam says. The Rambam speaks about this in Hilchas Yisodei HaTorah, and later in Hilchas Eidos as well. Whether the Eidim, whether what they're saying is true, whether what they're saying is not true, it doesn't matter. Al Pishnayim Eidim Yakum Dovar. The lashon that the Rambam uses is the words of an Eidos are Gzeiras Melech. It's a decree from the Eibishter that the words of the Eidos establishes that this is the way it is, and you have to follow what the Eidos says. That's on one hand. On the other hand, though, you would think if that's the Kayach of Eidos, so then maybe it shouldn't be necessary to interrogate them and to look into the details and try to determine if they're actually saying the truth or not. But at the same time, though, we see regarding Eidos that no, the Torah tells us you have to interrogate the Eidos. You have to examine their words. Are they saying the truth or not? That's another aspect of the Eidos. To see if the Eidos, to actually see if they're saying the truth or not. So in the concept of Eidos, you also see these 2 points regarding the Kayach of Torah. On one hand, Eidos is a Gzeiras Melech. The Torah comes and says, you hear the words of 2 witnesses. This is telling you a truth. Al pi Torah, this is the truth that the Torah establishes. And there's another aspect of Eidus, which is the Bezdin, using their own mind, using their own analysis to analyze the words of the Eidus to find out whether the Eidus are saying the truth or not. So that's why the Meseches here finishes off with this subject regarding Drisha v'Chakira, regarding being Doirish v'Chayker, the Eidus, because this concept that although on one hand Eidim are really Exeris Melech, but yet you do have to interrogate this Eidus, this actually is the Nukuda of the entire Meseches. That at the same time that a Yid has to know that everything that is written in Torah is Exeris Melech, and we have to accept the Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shemayim, what it says in Torah, whether you understand it or not. But then there's another point in Torah that you have to learn and understand and appreciate every single thing in Torah on your own. Ad kedei kach, that here you have a mitzvah that the Torah allows you yourself to make a certain choice about this mitzvah. The Rebbe connects it a step further when you get to the actual case that the Gemara is speaking about over here. So what are we speaking about? Shaleitinul deles b'fnei loivin. Shaleitinul deles b'fnei loivin, you want a person that has money to lend, that he should lend money easily, relying on the fact that it'll be easy for him to collect his money. So the Rebbe says, even just on a very simple level, you see that what are we speaking about up here? We're speaking about adding shalom ba'ilam. Here you have one person that's lacking in one area, he doesn't have his money, and someone else has extra, and he's able to lend money. He's able to give him a loan. So the Chazal wanted to add shalom ba'ilam, so they did all kinds of things, including uprooting seemingly a halacha in Torah to allow a Yid to be able to borrow money, to make it easy for a Yid to borrow money. So this is directly tied in to the subject of marbim shalom ba'ilam. It's also tied in to Meseches Yevamos in a little bit of a different way, because just like here, we're talking about a person where there are two individuals and there's one that's lacking, doesn't have the funds, and another person has extra money that he could lend him. Similar, the concept of Yivum and Chalitza applies when there's a person that Rahman al-Islam passes away without children, and he's very much lacking in that area. He came into the world, and the main purpose of a person coming into this world is Der Yesharim Yevairach, to leave children, an everlasting lineage of children and grandchildren and so on. And he left the world without any children. And here, what the Torah is saying is that his brother has the koyach to do him this favor, lahakim shem la'achiv. This is a gemilas chesed that he's doing, that he's continuing the name of his brother in the world. And the Rebbe there brings from the Zohar that the Zohar tells us that this is true not only b'negei to the mitzvah of Yibum, but it's also true b'negei to the mitzvah of Chalitza. When you do Chalitza, even though Chalitza seems to be something where the woman comes and spits at this man that did not want to marry her and did not want to fulfill the mitzvah of Yibum to bring a name for the brother in the world. So it seems like that Chalitza is just a negative. But the Zohar says that Chalitza is a mitzvah, and Chalitza is misakin, the neshama that came into the world and left no children in the world. Chalitza creates a tikkun for the neshama as well. So just like the whole theme of the Meseches discussing Yibum and Chalitza, a brother could say, my brother passed away, he didn't have any children, Nebuch, Rachman is in him, but why is it my obligation to help him out? But the Torah comes and says, your brother passes away without children, so then it's your obligation to step in and to do something, to fill in something that you can. It's the same exact theme that the Meseches speaks about when it talks about the concept of Gemilas Chesed, to lend money to someone that you're able to give money to. So that's another very simple connection here in the end of the Meseches. Upon him, the point over here is that the whole chiddush of Meseches Yevamos is the koyach of shalom that every individual could create. Every individual has a choice to create with his personal koyach, with a connection to the Eibishter. And this goes even further based on the Gemara. If you learn the Meseches, the Gemara said that according to Abba Shol, fulfilling the mitzvah of Yibum Bizman Hazeh is something that we don't do. What's the reason? Because Abba Shol says, if you marry your brother's wife and you're not doing it l'shem shemayim, just for the mitzvah, you're doing it with some ulterior motive. So then it's kilu karev livgaya be'erve. You have to do a dafka l'shem shemayim. And therefore the Torah tells you have another option, the mitzvah of chalitza. So what do you see over here? Even a person that thinks about himself and says, my connection to the Eibishter is not necessarily perfect l'shem shemayim. So if it's not perfectly Shem Shemayim, so then what's the point? Why should I even do anything? So the Torah is not speaking to me. I'm not perfect enough. I'm not good enough. The whole concept of chalitza is given for whom? For a person that can't fulfill the mitzvah of Yibam L'Shem Shemayim. He's a person that's doing things Shaloi L'Shma. He's constantly thinking about himself. He has ulterior motives. The Torah comes and says, there's a derech for you as well. There's an option for you as well. You can fulfill the mitzvah of chalitza. That's also a tikkun for the neshama. The Torah has an eitzah for you as well. So it's not only the point that the Torah here is giving two options, an option milmata l'mayla, but it's giving an option for every single yid, even for someone that thinks that the Torah does not speak to me. Chalitza is something that everyone and anyone could be mekayim in this matzav. And maybe the concept of chalitza means that even a person that says to himself that I do things shalei l'shma, the Torah is for you as well. So the Eibush to helfen that as we finished here Mesechta Yevamos, we should continue learning and finish and learn many more Mesechtes. And the ikir is that from the Shalom, from every single daf of Gemara you learn, and the Shalom we bring ba'olam, we should bring the ultimate Shalom ba'olam, the Shalom where the Gar Zev and Keves, the Shalom that's described in the Psukim and the Chazal, what's going to be la'asad lavai, and it should be b'mheirav yameinu mamash.